Calling all parents of high-achieving student athletes with huge goals and super high standards for themselves. In this video, I'm going to share with you a powerful self-awareness tool that you can use with your kids to help support them in feeling more whole, nourished, and happy. Since you're here watching this video, my guess is you are probably aware of the power of nutrition to help kids, and especially student athlete kids, to reach their greatest potential. Simply put, kids who consistently take their nutrition seriously far outperform those who don't. This has certainly been my own lived experience playing pro for 7 years, and also at the D1 level while playing and studying at Princeton University. Now, why is this? Why do athletes consistently perform better when they prioritize high quality nutrition? Well, let's break it down. When a young athlete is consistently bringing in high quality nutrients into their body, they recover faster. They have reduced levels of inflammation in their bodies because they're not eating crappy inflammatory foods every day. They have more energy, so they can run longer and harder out on the field. They can think more clearly, and the list goes on and on. I like to think about it this way. The nutrient density in Oreos and potato chips versus the nutrient density in organic blueberries and wild salmon is absolutely and entirely incomparable. Also, no interaction in the body is free, and that means every action and interaction that occurs in the human body requires nutrients to take place. So studying and exercise, yes, they both require lots of energy and nutrients, especially when done at a high level of excellence and intensity. And so does being stressed. Yes, when our kids are super stressed, they burn through their magnesium and B vitamins so much faster. Of course, these are important nutrients for all humans, but especially for our high-achieving student athletes who study a lot, who work out a lot, and are often stressed out a lot. One of my functional medicine mentors and teachers, Tracy Harrison, said, "We don't have a pantry of nutrients stored in our left butt cheek that we can draw from whenever we're depleted." And so by that she meant we have to eat our nutrients and bring them in through a consistently high quality diet. It's no different from a car's fuel, oil and grease supplies. It slowly depletes. So I am a big believer that kids, and of course adults too, require quality fuel to not only perform at their best and move most powerfully toward their goals, but most importantly, they require quality fuel to also feel at their best. Because how your student athlete lives each day adds up to how they live their entire lifetime. When a student athlete is empowered with the knowledge to own the day through their daily habits, including their nutritional habits, they are set up to own their entire life. So the food that our kids and all humans eat, the fuel on the plate that physically nourishes the body, this is what I call secondary food. And it's really, really important, and it's one powerful tool that can help a student athlete stand out while simultaneously empowering them with the habits to live a much healthier, physically nourished life long term. But that's not what this video is about today. Today, I want to talk to you about all the other things that nourish our children just as much as, if not more than, the food they eat. Today, I want to talk to you about something called primary food. I was first introduced to this concept by the Institute for Integrative Nutrition over 5 years ago. IIN teaches that primary food consists of 4 larger categories, and each one breaks down into 3 smaller subcategories. The 4 larger categories that make up primary food, according to IIN, are relationships, spirituality, physical activity, and career. As you can see, the relationships category breaks down into these 3 smaller subcategories: social life, relationships, and home environment. The spirituality category breaks down into spirituality, creativity, and joy. Career consists of finances, career, and education, and physical activity is made up of health, physical activity, and home cooking. The colorful circle is the visual representation of primary food, and IIN calls it the circle of life. What I did was, for my student athletes, I took IIN's primary food circle of life, which in my opinion is much more appropriate for adults, and I turned it into something that better fits middle and high school student athletes. I did this by mixing in my own lived experience as a young student athlete, as well as what I've learned from coaching them over the past 5 years. I'll share those student athlete primary food categories and subcategories with you in just a moment. But before I do that, I think it's helpful to share a bit more about the actual impact of primary food. So the why and the value it holds for our children and even your whole family if you were to incorporate it into your family's culture and everyday approach to a nourished life. So in preparing to create this video for you, I was doing some research on the Institute for Integrative Nutrition's website. And here's a quote I found. "Food is more than what you find on your plate. Healthy relationships, regular physical activity, a fulfilling career, and a spiritual practice can fulfill your soul and satisfy your hunger for life. When primary food is balanced and satiated, your life feeds you, making what you eat secondary." Primary food teaches that the way we live our life can be fuel to the mind, body, and spirit. Primary food answers the question, how can children move toward more of what they want and more of what they love, aka their goals and their passions, while feeling more whole, nourished, and happy? Here are some examples of this played out, all of which I've personally experienced as a student athlete and or witnessed as a coach. Imagine a teenage soccer player who consistently eats the most excellent, nutritious, high-quality foods, but she's really out of balance in her primary food, for example, her academic career and her physical activity. She is much more likely to feel less nourished and satisfied with her life. Imbalanced primary food, even in just one area, for example, in friendships and relationships, can make a person much more likely to overeat or to eat foods that don't make them feel good in an effort to try and fill up on the love they're not getting from their social life. And sometimes they do the opposite and stop eating to give themselves a sense of control. On the flip side, when a child is thriving across all areas of their circle of life, across all areas of primary food, when they're out playing in nature, when they accept themselves and live a life filled with gratitude, focused on all that they do have, when they have the social skills to connect with and feel nourished by their friend group, when they have systems and habits in place to excel in their academics and feel organized, relaxed, and on track as they move toward their clear, exciting goals, then it's much easier to stay happy, whole, nourished, and joyful because the way they're living their life is nourishing them so deeply. So here are the primary food categories that I created specifically for all the awesome student athletes out there. The 4 categories for student athletes are relationship to self and others, physical activity, academic career, and heart. As you can see, relationship to self and others breaks down into social life, self-acceptance, and high-quality friends and relationships. Physical activity breaks down to fitness, technical skill, and tactical IQ specific to your child's sport and position. Academic career breaks down to organization and time management. This is huge for kids in stress reduction, by the way. And then we have academics and clear, exciting goals. And heart breaks down into joy, creativity, and gratitude. So can you see how if your child is at an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 across all of these categories, then they are so much more likely to be in a good place mentally and emotionally. And if your child is struggling right now or has been for a while or hasn't been smiling as much, chances are their primary food self-assessment is going to show that. And it'll help you and them lock in on some of the potential drivers of that imbalance. So now that you know what primary food and secondary food are, how they're different, and the reasons behind why kids really do need a balance of both to truly flourish, here's the 7-step process you can do with each of your student athletes to non-judgmentally get a baseline for their current level of primary food. Step 1. Invite your student athlete to do this process with you and let them know that it's very likely going to help them with the thing they care about most in their life right now. What I mean by this is if you connect doing this primary food process with their top value in life, the thing they enjoy doing the most, they're going to be much more likely to want to engage with it. For example, suppose your daughter loves soccer more than anything else. Great. Let her know that you think this process will help her get more self-aware of where she's at right now in areas that impact her as a soccer player. Step 2, invite your athlete to rank each of the 12 primary food areas on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being awesome or 100% satisfied and 0 being not satisfied at all. Have your son or daughter do this on their own without giving them any help. We want this to be as unbiased as possible and from their own lived experience in their body and in their life. Your experience or perception of them, while helpful, may be very different from their own self-evaluation, which is valuable information about what's going on inside their own mind. And by the way, you can do your own primary food parent self-assessment on IIN's website while your athlete is doing theirs, and I'll put the link to do that below. Step 3. Now invite your student athlete to plot each of those numbers on the primary food circle and then connect the dots with lines. This is really helpful because both you and your son or daughter will get a visual depiction of their primary food. Often when kids come to me and they're struggling, their circles are really wonky, more like a star shape or something similar, and it's condensed close into the center of the circle. And what I've experienced in my own life and also with the kids I work with is that a student athlete who feels whole, nourished, and happy will very likely have a large, wide circle of life because they are strong and balanced across all categories. Step 4, now get curious and ask your son or daughter, what, if anything, surprises you? This encourages them to think critically about how the information on the paper connects to and helps explain their own experience of their life. Step 5, together and non-judgmentally invite them to identify their strongest primary food area with the most balance right now. Celebrate them and encourage them to celebrate themselves too. Now here's the important part. Ask them, how much time do you spend per week in minutes or hours honing and developing this area? Wait until they give you a number and write this down. Step 6, together and non-judgmentally invite them to identify and share their biggest opportunity area. Get curious about it together because this is just data, just feedback, just information. Often this is one of the areas your child has spent the least amount of time developing. So usually it makes so much sense that your son or daughter is not as strong here. It's like never training pull-ups and then going into the gym and barely being able to do one. The result you get is in line with the amount of time and effort that's been invested up to this point. So again, to wrap up step 6, invite them to share with you how much total time in minutes or hours they've spent on this area up to this point and write it down. Step 7, collaborate together and ask them this question. Which area would most benefit your life if you focused on it and strengthened it over the next 2 months? Again, as the parent, you can connect this to their top life value right now. So in the case of the soccer girl who loves soccer more than anything, the question would be something like, which area, if you invested in it and strengthened it over the next 2 months, would most help you in soccer? And finally, to wrap this up, have a moment of celebration. Woohoo! You and your student athlete just did something so awesome to gain awareness into their current level of primary food. Awareness is one of the seeds of change. Before we can change anything, we first need to get aware of it first, of where we are now and where we want to go. My invitation to your son or daughter is to redo this every few months to check in, reassess, and refocus. I believe that your child can become a master of anything if they set their mind to it and spend the time on it. Thanks for sharing this video. It means so much to me and to Coach Luke, who is our mindset and confidence coach at the Evolving Athlete Academy. Our numbers continue to grow, and honestly, that's thanks to the many parents who've been spreading the word to other parents about how we have been helping them and their children. If you want to stay connected to more tips and tools to support your student athletes to accomplish their goals with the greatest ease, consistency, power, and joy, then sign up for educational and entertaining emails on our website.